Hi everyone, I'm Ava, and welcome back to Your Financial Journey. So President Trump has been pretty busy lately, and it seems as if at least one Republican lawmaker thinks he deserves a reward for his work. And by reward, I mean a $250 bill with his face on it. Because Representative Joe Wilson of South Carolina recently announced his plans to propose one. While I'm almost certain that Trump isn't unhappy with that plan, everybody else doesn't seem so excited. Some people are opposed to having Trump's face on a bill, and others are opposed to any kind of $250 bill at all. So in today's video, we'll be breaking down what this proposal actually means. More specifically, we'll talk about the proposed $250 Trump bill, as well as the history of high-value U.S. currency banknotes, and why bills larger than $100 have pretty much disappeared from circulation in the first place. Let's dive in. So what's actually happening with this new bill? Well, Republican Representative Joe Wilson of South Carolina declared in a post on X that he's drafting legislation to create a new $250 bill, which he says is needed because of inflation increasing prices. According to Wilson, Bidenflation has destroyed the economy, forcing American families to carry more cash. But the bill's main feature is its design, because the $250 bill would have President Donald Trump's face on it. This proposal seems to be part of a broader movement among some Republican lawmakers to honor Trump, much like the suggestion from Representative Anna Paulina Luna of Florida to add Trump's likeness to Mount Rushmore. In fact, in Wilson's post he wrote, "Most valuable bill for most valuable president." But there's a small problem with Wilson's plan. Under current U.S. law, you can't put a living person on a bill. This rule was put in place in 1866 to prevent the glorification of political figures in a way that could resemble a monarchy or dictatorship, so Trump wouldn't be able to get his face on a bill until after he's dead. Wilson's proposal tries to find a way around this and create an exemption for individuals who have already served as president, allowing them to appear on currency while still alive. Because of Trump's previous term, from 2016 to 2020, it would allow him to be put on the bill right now. But even if the legal hurdle to the bill was overcome, there's a lot of political opposition to it as well. Of course, there's Trump's opponents and political rivals who are against any efforts to honor him out of principle. But many others are against it for more practical reasons. Namely, that with so much going on, the war in Ukraine, tariffs, our large deficit, our representatives and president's time can probably be spent on better things than introducing a new banknote. And while Wilson's reasoning for the new $250 Trump bill may be dubious at best in the first place, the timing of his post didn't exactly help his case either. Inflation certainly has raised prices, but creating a brand new bill would require a decent amount of money. And it would come just as President Trump has been trying to cut costs for the U.S. Mint. As we recently talked about, Trump has ordered all production of new pennies to stop. Check out the link to that video below if you're interested. So while the idea of a $250 bill with Trump's face on it is certainly capturing the public's attention, there's legal and practical opposition that may prevent it from ever becoming a reality. But let's not rule it out completely. Who knows what might happen? We live in eventful and sometimes unpredictable times. And there are certainly some people who would like to have a higher denomination bill in circulation again. Which brings us to the next part of today's video. All this talk about a new higher denomination bill got us thinking. What about other large bills that actually did exist? Because while it might seem crazy now, the U.S. once had banknotes way bigger than $250. We mean $500, $1,000, $5,000, $10,000, and even a whopping $100,000 bill. Yep, you heard that right. A $100,000 banknote. These old bills featured presidents and figures on them who might be more recognizable to Americans today if the bills were still in circulation. The $500 bill featured President William McKinley. The $1,000 bill had Grover Cleveland on it, and the $5,000 bill had James Madison's face on it. The honor of being on the $10,000 bill was given to Salmon P. Chase, Treasury Secretary under President Abraham Lincoln, and later the Supreme Court Chief Justice. He's probably the least known of all the faces ever to be put on banknotes. But he more than deserved it, as Chase was actually responsible for introducing a national paper currency to the U.S. And the largest of them all, the $100,000 bill, featured President Woodrow Wilson. But don't get too excited at the thought of such a large bill. It was never meant for the public and only to be used for bank-to-bank transactions. Some of these bills still exist, though they're pretty rare and hard to find. But none of them are still printed or used today. That said, I personally think the idea of having more bills with presidents and national figures on them is pretty cool. So that raises the next question we'll be answering in today's video. If we had these larger bills before, why don't we use them anymore? The simple answer to that question is technology and crime prevention. While today, most money and transactions might be digital, that wasn't the case for most of history. In the early 1900s, people pretty much needed coins or paper bills for every purchase they made. That included smaller purchases we still sometimes use cash for, like food and shopping, but also larger purchases, like houses, big business deals, and bank-to-bank transfers. That would be crazy to pay for in cash today. Because people regularly had to make purchases and transactions in the thousands, tens of thousands, and even hundreds of thousands of dollars with nothing but cash, it made sense to have larger bills. Imagine having to buy a house for $100,000 with cash today. It'd be much easier to bring 10 banknotes of $10,000 each rather than piling up $1,100 bills. In reality, though, we know you'd never have to bring $1,100 bills to buy a house, because in the last few decades, money has largely shifted into other forms. The rise of checks and electronic banking have made these greater denomination bills unnecessary, and in 1969, the U.S. government decided to phase all bills greater than $100 out completely. Another reason for that decision was that criminals loved large bills. High-denomination bills made it way easier to move large amounts of money undetected, making them popular with gangsters and money launderers. That contributed to President Nixon's decision to officially order their removal from circulation. So given that the U.S. once did have bills larger than $100, but actively decided to get rid of them because they were no longer useful and could be used by criminals, it brings us to the final part of today's video. Would a $250 bill even make sense today? Even if Representative Wilson's proposal overcame its legal challenges and the political opposition, would a $250 Trump bill actually be useful in today's world? The honest answer is probably not, because cash just isn't used that much anymore. According to Clearly Payments, cash was used for just 16% of all transactions made in 2024. In its place, more people are using credit cards, Venmo, and payment apps. It seems digital payments are what rule the economy. If cash as a whole isn't used much, any single new bill won't be either. And while Wilson's argument is that inflation drove up prices and created a need for a $250 bill, the reality of the situation is that most people don't use cash for large purchases anymore. Even though prices are higher, a $250 bill won't make purchasing small things easier. $10 or $20 bills would probably still be easier to use for your next visit to the convenience store. So while the idea of a Trump $250 bill might be a fun conversation starter, it's probably less practical in reality. Digital payments have made cash less and less relevant in everyday life, and that would be especially true for larger denomination bills like the one that's being proposed. That's all for today. What do you think? Do we need a $250 bill? Or should we even bring back big bills like the $500 or $1,000 note? And if a $250 bill did exist, who would you want on it? Trump or someone else? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed today's video. And also to check out this video here on President Trump getting rid of the penny. That's another one full of fun financial facts. We'll see you again next time.